Weapons. In Adventuring Heroes, the players have the choice of many different weapon types. The characters may get the opportunity to purchase, or take from the bodies of fallen foes, non-magical or magic weapons. These weapons have the attributes that either the sage gives to them, or the players can state what they expect from the weapon when they buy it. These attributes can be anything from a bow that shoots arrows twice as fast as usual, to a sword that causes massive damage to all undead. You could also have a shield that blocks magic attacks as well as normal weapons. It is good for the sage to limit the amount of power in some of the weapons, so that the players do not become so powerful no one can hurt them. For instance, if a shield blocks minor magic, then roll the die to see how many spells it can block before it needs to be recharged. Character specs. There are many different characters to choose from in Adventuring Hero. Some have magic, and some can use magic only to a certain degree, but make up for it in different ways. Some excel at physical prowess and not magical abilities. Magic users. Clerics. Clerics are a type of magic users that use mind magic. Cleric's magic is mostly defensive at first and then progresses to more offensive spells. The cleric's job is to keep all the other players alive, by healing and by saving them if they get themselves in trouble. Cleric's amulets, the symbol they wear around their necks that depict their deity, also grant them additional powers. When a cleric is wearing her amulet, the cleric is immune to poison, cannot be tied up by non-magical means. The cleric can just pull her arms out, and can ward off the undead. They may also destroy minor undead if they can back the undead into a corner and then place their amulet on its forehead. This will work better for minor undead than for major undead. Clerics do not use bladed weapons, as bladed weapons will usually cause more damage than a club or mace. A cleric is not one to want to cause death and destruction, so their main choice of weapon will more likely knock the enemy out rather than kill them. A cleric is just an average fighter. A cleric is of average height and weight. Clerics usually wear their clerical robes, which look like fancy fighters' clothing, with their amulets lying on top for all to see. Clerics have light armor but usually will enchant their robes for protection. Clerics start with a mace, club, quarterstaff, throwing hammers, whip, net, trident, or some other non-edged weapon. They may use bows and crossbows. A good outfit to start a cleric with is a mace, bow, and one quiver of arrows, 20 arrows. Clerical to attack, or try to take over, another cleric or wizard's mind. In this battle, the luck of the dice is the only factor, unless the cleric has improved mind powers. When the cleric attacks, you roll the 20-sided die one time for the cleric, and then one time for the enemy. You roll 6 to 8 times, and whoever gets the better average of the rolls wins the battle and is under the control of the other. If the cleric has improved mind powers, then she has 2 to 3 rolls for every one of the enemies. Each turn the controlled person has the chance to try to break out with one roll. While a cleric is in a mind battle, they are defenseless and are at the mercy of those around them for the length of the battle. Clerics need to make sure that they have protection while entering a mind battle. The mind that the cleric is attacking is also in the same state of helplessness. There are various sects of clerics. They are fire, ice, wind, earth, war, battle, healing, lunar, charge, death, shadow hand, and bestiary. Depending on which sect the cleric belongs to helps determine what special powers they may acquire during the game. The section also lets you know what you are going to be more proficient in. Origin of the deities. No one is quite sure how the deities came into existence. Some say that they were once great warriors, men and women who roamed the earth trying to improve the world around them. Others say that the Creator first brought them into existence when the need was the greatest. No one is quite sure. One thing the scholars all agree on is that the deities are powerful beings who share some of their power with those who serve them. It was during the time of the Great War, Some call it the time of darkness, or the time of the awakening, that the clerics of the various deities suddenly showed up and began to turn the tides of the battle. The battle in the Great Forest is well known, and all have much to thank the Kivs for. Less known are the bands of ravaging bandits and thieves that sprung up at the same time the call of war sounded throughout the kingdoms. These bandits often had wizards with them. The wizards say they were forced into servitude, while the bandits say they came to them. The added magical powers of the wizards gave them a large advantage over the guards and those who had banded together for safety. The bandits started to form larger bands, and it seemed that no one could stand before them. It was at this critical time that the clerics first showed up. With their help, the groups of survivors were able to finally drive out the bandits from their lands. Wizards are still not trusted in the lands to this day, and thus they are a close-mouthed bunch, slow to befriend others of their kind. After the bandits were removed, the scholars of the day came together and compiled a work called Beginnings, after talking to the head cleric of each order about the supposed origins of their deities. Since there are only 12 copies of the book, it is a highly sought-after treasure. Clerics have enough magical energy, mana, for 24 spell slots. Then the cleric needs to rest for about 5 to 7 days to allow their magical energy to recharge, or need to sleep through the night to allow some mana, 2 to 3 spells, to recharge. The following is a list of spells that all clerics can acquire. This list does not include the specialty spells that clerics can acquire from the deity. As clerics get more powerful, they have the chance to gain spells from other clerical sects, if they do favors for those other deities. Clerical shared magic. Almost all clerics start with the same spells, the exception is the bestiary cleric. Healing. All clerics can heal minor and major wounds. The amount of healing possible and the time required to heal a wound depends on the strength of the cleric. Web. A large sticky web that the caster can throw out to capture an enemy. You need magical weapons or a magical resistance to escape these webs. Duration is dice dependent. Wall. A wall 6 feet high and 4 feet wide that can block incoming objects or people. Duration is dice dependent. Light. Creates a ball of light that you can see by, that floats above the cleric's head, or the cleric can fix it to a certain point. Duration is dice dependent. Lifting. The ability to lift objects, or people, into the air, and to move them about. Duration is dice dependent. The next group of spells is used by all clerics, but they have to earn them through adventuring. Clerics can also decide to improve their mind powers instead of acquiring a new spell. Improved mind powers. Clerics have the choice to get increased mind powers instead of gaining another spell. The cleric can do this 3 times, for up to 4 times mind powers. All clerics start with 1 times mind powers. With improved mind powers, the cleric can more easily take over the mind of a wizard or other cleric, or take over the mind of a non-magic user. When you engage in a mind battle, you get the extra roll per each mind improvement. So you would get 2 rolls for the enemy's 1 roll to take over the target's mind if you had 2 mind powers. Times 1 regular starting mind powers. The cleric can tell when someone is lying to you or is uneasy in their thoughts. Instead of a minor spell, times 2 can read surface thoughts easily and tell when someone is lying to you with ease. In a mind battle, the cleric now gets 2 shakes of the dice instead of the 1. Instead of a mid-level spell, times 3 can now read thoughts easily and can start to put suggestions in other minds. Can reach out to companions and send messages to them. In a mind battle, the cleric now gets 3 shakes of the dice instead of the 1. Instead of a major spell, times 4 massive mind powers now. Can take over another's mind even if not a magic user easily and make them believe what you want him to. Can read thoughts easily and can send messages over long distances to other companions. More easily talks to the chosen deity and can more easily get divine help from them. In a mind battle, the cleric now gets 4 shakes of the dice instead of the 1. Minor spells. Sleep puts the target to sleep. Duration is dice dependent. Silence. An area of quiet surrounds the target in the size, square feet, of one roll of the die. Duration is dice dependent. Translation. Translates any written language. Duration is dice dependent. Linguist. Lets the caster understand any language. Duration is dice dependent. Speed. Speeds up a character to twice their natural speed for a certain time limit, up to 4 moves per turn. Duration is dice dependent. Slow. Slows down a target to half its normal speed for a time. Duration is dice dependent. Tracking. The caster can track the target anywhere, even over water or rocks. Duration is dice dependent. The caster has to have seen the target to cast the spell but doesn't have to have the target in sight. Mid-level spells. Magic missile. An item is hurled, such as a rock or arrow, that when hit causes the damage of a small missile and depending on the object can also cause shrapnel damage. A new spell must be cast for each object. Personal protection. Causes a protective covering around the caster, companion that can withstand various numbers of hits. Duration is dice dependent. The amount of hits the protection can withstand is the number from the one roll of the die. Sticks to snakes. A bundle of sticks is turned into a group of poisonous snakes for a certain time. Duration is dice dependent. There are 20 snakes max with each spell, and the caster can decide which type of snake. Grenadier. The caster hurls an exploding grenade that causes a shrapnel-based attack. This will hurt the caster's companions as well. Mind missile. The caster causes an invisible missile to fly at the target. Major spells. Thunder. A great booming noise causes the target's bones to shake and crack. Missile chain. The caster causes 6 to 10 missiles to fly at the target. Anti-magic. The caster causes all magic in an area to become nullified. Duration and size are dice dependent. Area is the size in square feet of one shake of the die. Heavenly Host. Calls forth a group, 15, of winged warriors to protect the caster. Duration is dice dependent. All warriors are armed with a sword and shield. These warriors do massive damage to the undead. Bolt of the Deity. A massive magical bolt of pure power is blasted at the target. This bolt will melt all minor undead, hurt major undead, and cause truly evil beings to be knocked down and they may become unconscious. Duration is dice dependent. The stronger the mind powers, the stronger the bolt. Resurrection. The caster can raise a companion from the dead. The resurrected companion loses the highest spell, ability that they have acquired. The other spells clerics get are dependent on their sect.